Hello, my dear friends. Welcome to my channel, or welcome back. I know it's been a hot minute. I got so swamped at work and everything, and oh my gosh, it's been so hard for me to keep up with just everything in my life. So I'm slowly starting to get caught up, and I have been burning candles, but I haven't really been reviewing them. That said, I haven't been burning a ton of like super great candles. Most of them have been mediocre at best. There are a couple standouts from Bath and Body Works that I have been burning recently, so I'm really excited when it comes to reviewing those. But for right now, we have still some Homeworx candles that I can't even get excited about, but I need to talk about them at the same time. I actually have I have five Homeworx candles that I've burned over the last, well, actually a couple of these I burned in like late November, I think, and I've just not gotten to them to review. But 5 candles that need to be reviewed that I have like burned all the way down. So I need to talk about them. But unfortunately, I mean, spoiler alert, I don't think any of them are particularly great. And I wouldn't repurchase any of them, with the exception maybe of one. So let's talk about the 2 that I burned in November, and I'm having a hard time remembering. I bought these at Marshall's, and this is Palo Santo and Spruce, which is a fairly recent candle for them, I think. And then Citrus and Spruce, which looks like this. So beautiful, so beautiful. Citrus and Spruce has been around for quite some time. So this was kind of a definite TJ Maxx offering, in that I'm pretty sure that these candles were reversed. So there really was a pouring blunder. So what looks like Palo Santo and Spruce, which is this kind of like very appropriate, lovely taupe color. And then Citrus and Spruce over here, which has this lovely, well, it used to have a lovely greenish kind of color. It's gotten pretty murky. So yeah, they just got completely mispoured. So while the color of the wax is right, the label is right, etc., it's just the reverse fragrance. So what is actually here as Citrus and Spruce is Palo Santo and Spruce, and they kind of hit TJ Maxx and Marshall's at exactly the same time. So it was discovered in the factory that this was incorrect, and they just shipped them all to the bargain retailers, which is understandable. And I'm sure that they corrected their blunder, and I can't imagine that if you order from Slatkin.com or whatever it is, that you would have or experience that mistake. I'm sure it was corrected for the actual website, but for those of us who don't mind buying discounted candles, even when they're mistaken, they sent these to us. So, and very helpfully sent them at the same time, and they appeared on the shelf at the same time. So great. I actually ended up discovering this after the fact. When I was so happy when I saw this on the shelf, because I've been really wanting to try it. It's a fairly, like I said, fairly recent candle. I almost want to say that it's brand new for this year. So this one was poured in March of 2024, and I think it was new for this fall. Kind of on the heels of Palo Santo Pumpkin from last year. They, unlike Bath and Body Works, are cashing in on the Palo Santo trending fragrance kind of moment. And they don't even have that good of a Palo Santo fragrance. Whereas Bath and Body Works, who actually do have a very unique and delightful Palo Santo fragrance, are doing nothing with it. So, God bless. I obviously don't make decisions for these companies. Palo Santo and Spruce, I was very happy to see on the shelf, and I kind of sniffed it, and I'm like, yeah, that smells good. I'll take it. I could hardly smell it in the store, but it didn't matter. I mean, even if I didn't like it, or if it was very faint, I was taking it home because I am the self-designated Palo Santo queen, and I need to experience this candle. So I was just so happy to find it and not have to pay for it full price or close to it on the Slatkin website to get it. And then this one right here, Citrus and Spruce, I smelled it and I was like, oh, wow, yes, yes. So unlike this Palo Santo and Spruce in the Marshalls, this one, like, I brought home because it smelled amazing. And I was so not expecting it. I just lifted the lid and I was like, oh my gosh, this is right up my alley and it's fantastic. And I don't remember citrus and spruce ever smelling like this. And then when I got them home and smelled them in my house, etc., I realized what had happened. That this very indifferently smelling Palo Santo and Spruce was actually citrus and spruce. And yeah, it's nothing to write home about. It's just kind of this vaguely fruity spruce, but it's just not firing on any kind of level. And that's always been my impression about citrus and spruce, is it just doesn't fire with the assertiveness and the strength that you really want it to. And it's not even just like strength full stop. It's like the fragrance itself lacks some amount of gumption, for lack of a better term. I mean, it just kind of is very anemic. It's not well executed. It's just a poor excuse of a concept and certainly of a label. There's no question. This label is stunning. And obviously the concept of citrus and spruce is not necessarily groundbreaking, but it deserved a very bright, assertive, if not joyful fragrance. And it's never been good. It's one of those candles that I've always picked up, like expectantly wanting the fullness of the concept of citrus and spruce, like a really juicy orange with a really juicy spruce. No cloves, no orange pomander. I mean, just the orange, and especially orange rind, and something just so brilliantly authentic with a spruce note. I just think that would be fantastic. And also, if it was executed correctly, perhaps one that could carry us into January as well. Like, it may not be, especially without all of the like usual spices, clove, being predominant as like an orange pomander vibe, without all those spices, might make it less holiday-ish and a little bit more stripped down, authentic, something you could take, like I said, into January. So I've always been so excited by the concept, by the label, and then it's like bait and switch. You open the lid and it's like, wah, wah. This is a half fragrance. This is an example of one of those like 37 tree conceptuals that Harry Slatkin has that does not deserve to keep coming out. I've had this conversation in several videos before, like fully like 25 of those 37 conceptuals just need to be retired at this point, because they're just all shades, slight shades of difference. And many of them, and this is like a prime example, it's exhibit A of a fragrance that is just kind of a half fragrance. And it needs to be a full fragrance. And probably its counterpart is found in some other 1 or 2 or 3 other Harry Slatkin fragrances, and they just all need to be combined into one, and all of the halves just be kind of retired so that we don't see them anymore. Anyway, close parentheses. I have not changed my opinion on citrus and spruce, which was actually poured in this jar right here. It has a half fragrance, a half strength and throw. I mean, like maybe coming in like a back bedroom or a smaller space, maybe coming in at a 4 or a 5. And it's not at all surprising given how anemic the fragrance profile is. It's like it's just not loving to be alive. This fragrance is not wanting to be either citrus or spruce or anything. It just wants to go back to sleep like a bear. So, very disappointing. It's always been a disappointing fragrance, and it was poured very misleadingly into this jar, but is in fact citrus and spruce. So there you go, for posterity. I took one for the team. I've never wanted to pick it up for the reasons aforementioned, and I can confirm that in fact it burns exactly as it smells, which is to say a very poor excuse of a brilliant concept, and one that really should work. In home fragrance, there are certain fragrance notes that are easier to amplify than others. Vanilla, for instance, very hard to amplify. Spruce, balsam fragrance notes, not hard to amplify. Citrus notes, not hard to amplify. When you have them both in a jar, should not be hard to smell. Should be a brilliant, almost bracing kind of fragrance. That it's not is just, it kind of, it bewilders and baffles me and slightly offends me, to be perfectly honest. So that is citrus and spruce. No, I will never buy it again. There you go. So Palo Santo and Spruce, which misleadingly is poured in our citrus and spruce candle, is a great fragrance. And of the 5 that I have here to review, is most certainly the one that I would purchase again if it performed better. And so it just doesn't perform. I mean, it did get pretty murky. Obviously, they've poured it into the wrong color wax and the wrong wicks. So I don't know that I can really like knock it for how murky it is, given the fact that it's obviously a mistake. But for Harry Slatkin's recent, like within the last couple years kind of wax formulas, it was definitely a little bit on the sooty side. Still, I mean, that continuum is quite good. I mean, his candles are, for the most part, not very sooty. I think they have a great deal of soy in them. But for that soy continuum was definitely a little bit more on the sooty side. And perhaps not coincidentally, the fragrance profile itself is smoky and smoldery and charred. So there's that. This is a gorgeous, if a little bit predictable at this stage in the game. If this fragrance came out like a decade ago or 15 years ago, it would have been brilliant and shocking. As it is, many candle companies at this point do kind of have a wood smoke, wood hearth, often with a little bit of char or vetiver or something like that. Most all companies have some version of it to greater or lesser degrees of austerity and aggressiveness. So this is definitely in that category. It's a dry wood, it's a charred wood, it's a lot of smoke. And it also has that like leather-like nuance that could either be a birch, or it could be a leather note, or it could be a vetiver, or it could be a patchouli, or it could be some combination of all of those. Again, not in enough measure for us to be able to discern one way or another, but it's still a very nice smell. And given the fact that either because it's a soy candle primarily, or Harry Slatkin has intentionally given it like a lightness and a little bit less bassiness, it sits in a very palatable space. So one of the ditches on a side of a road that you really want to avoid when you're formulating a fragrance like this is that it can get bassy and heavy, and perhaps even men's cologne very quickly, depending upon the percentage of smoke, the percentage of amber, the percentage of vetiver or leather or musk or whatever it is that you're adding into this very wood forward bonfire kind of fragrance. It can get very aggressive. And if you put too much smoke in it, then it will start to smell like a novelty candle, like your house is literally burning down. I mean, there's just a lot of actually like Scylla and Charybdis, like the whirlwind monsters. It's not just one ditch, it's 2 ditches, it's 2 monsters. There's a lot of things to steer kind of in one way or another when you're formulating a fragrance like this, which has become quite popular. Yeah, so it stays in a fairly like bright mid-range kind of place. Yes, it's woody. Yes, it's smoky. Yes, there's kind of a leather patchouli-ish kind of aspect to it, but it's not terribly basey. And like I said, this could just be because it's a very heavy soy formulation. And I found that soy candles really struggle to capture especially basey and deep notes. So it could be that as well. It stays in a fairly like good palatable space. You do need to like smoke, you do need to like wood, you do need to kind of like a leatherish kind of vibe to it. The notes that are listed here on this one are Palo Santo, blue spruce, fir needles, and spiced amber. Well, there you go, the spiced amber. It's gonna give you a kind of a musky, incensey kind of situation. I do think this one leans a little bit more leather patchouli than like incensey. I'm not getting a huge amount of like spice, a huge amount of clove or anything like that. I would say that, which is kind of welcome, to be honest. I would say that it stays more in the leather and birch range than it does, and maybe a vetiver or a patchouli or something like that. But again, a higher patchouli, a higher amber, etc. So it's fine. It's really a fine candle. It doesn't blow my mind, but it's very nice. And when I smelled it, I was like, yes, this is my wheelhouse. This is kind of what I do. Unfortunately, the strength and throw on this was just not where it should have been. And partly that could be because of the heavy soy formulation and because of his choice to keep the fragrance kind of in the mid-range as opposed to in the basier ranges, where it might have amplified or had better lasting power. I don't know. But I would say this one came in at like, again, similar to Citrus and Spice, might have been a little bit better than it. So in the back bedroom, it may have been like a 5, you know? But in a back bedroom, I would want a fragrance like this to be more than 5. And I would, given the smoke dimension of it, I would prefer to keep this in an open concept, in a living room, in a living area, to kind of simulate a fireplace, etc. Not that you can't have a fireplace in your bedroom, especially if you're, you know, of a certain tax bracket, etc. But smoke in the bedroom is a little bit, I don't know that I would go there. Smoke in the living room, okay. Depending upon how dry it is, how cozy it is, etc., you know, etc. If it leans more on the toasty side than like the charred charcoal side, etc. Yes, I would say open concept is kind of where I would want this candle to be. And there's no way you're not going to get anything from it in the open concept, unfortunately. So you kind of have to make it a back bedroom fragrance, and I just don't know that it's really a back bedroom fragrance. At any rate, of the 5 here that I'm reviewing, it's definitely the one that I would revisit and hope for a greater strength, a greater presence in some other future iteration. The way that these things go, usually the strength, the throw, the presence, does not get better as you go on. It gets worse from year to year. So I don't know how confident I am that that would ever happen. All right. And then thirdly, here's another beautiful blue glass candle that I bought. It was a 3-wick, burned like a dream. This is Balsam White Birch, which is a fairly long-standing candle for Slatkin. Again, one of the 37 tree conceptuals. This one is fir balsam, white birch, cedar leaf, and smoldering woods. So this one, frankly, should smell a great deal like Palo Santo and Spruce. And kind of doesn't. This Palo Santo and Spruce doesn't have any smoldering or smoke notes to it. And it's a very smoky fragrance. Not overwhelmingly so, but it's an obviously smoky fragrance. So I don't know that the notes here indicate. Oh, another thing that I should say, it says Palo Santo Spruce. First of all, and I said this, I don't think they have a particularly evocative Palo Santo note. I'm not discerning any kind of unique wood smell here. This is just a generic bonfire wood. I mean, and it's so smoky and charred that you can't even really tell what kind of wood it is. Although it's a very like kind of generic wood note. I would almost say that it's a cedar note, and it could just be that the wood note here along with an amber, which is going to make it kind of glow a little bit warmer, etc. It's coming across as possibly a cedar, but again, quite charred at this point. So the Palo Santo is part of this is a little bit of a throwaway because it could be any kind of wood, any kind of warmish wood. The spruce note is a bit of a throwaway as well. And the notes here say blue spruce and fir needles. So there should be a good amount of like green here, like coniferous green. And I'm not getting, oh wait, this is the wrong candle. That's the citrus spruce one. I'm not getting a lot of coniferous green. Maybe a little bit, like a nuance, like there were charred branches here that were once fir or spruce, but there's nothing very like living or green in this fragrance at all. And I do think that might have been a way to kind of round out the fragrance and give us a little bit more. I think it needs a few more bassy notes, and I think it needs a little bit more pine, spruce, fir, balsam, whatever it is. Just, it needs more coniferous tree, I think, to really give us the concept of what he was going here, which is not just a charred wood, but is in fact a charred wood with spruce. Yeah, so kind of interesting on that level too, because most of his 37 tree conceptuals are very tree forward. This one kind of is not. It's charred wood forward. This one, this Balsam and White Birch actually does mention char. It says fir balsam, white birch, and birch usually does have a kind of a leathery, almost smoky component to it. Cedar leaf, and then smoldering woods. But this candle, to my nose, does not have any smoke in it at all. And not even anything really having to do with birch or leather, which is what is making me wonder if this is a mispour too. I don't know. Help me out. I'll tell you what it is that I'm smelling. To me, this smells a great deal like the new Treetops Glisten fragrance that came out from QVC that I actually really liked because it was very powerful and it was a very good tree conceptual that kind of combined like 7 or 8 more mediocre tree conceptuals already in Harry Slatkin's collection. This one smells a great deal like that in that it's a vaguely fruity spruce balsam with ozone, and if I'm not mistaken, either a eucalyptus note or even a mint note. I mean, there's something just obviously cool in this fragrance. And since the notes here do not list anything cool at all, no eucalyptus, no mint, no ozone, no like winter air or something like that, and no fruit. And I think there's kind of a fruit nuance here. Where's my citrus spruce? Yeah, it's a little bit more similar to citrus and spruce, but it has a very pronounced, like I said, cool, either mentholated eucalyptus note or mint note that citrus and spruce doesn't have. So it's basically like an anemic, and in fact, this is what I'm talking about with the 37 tree conceptuals that are essentially just like combinations of each other and half fragrances. This is basically citrus. This what is purporting to be balsam white birch seems like it is citrus and spruce plus some eucalyptus and ozone. That's what it smells like to me. It's okay. It's okay. It's a waste. If it is truly balsam white birch, it's not, the notes are misleading. There's nothing smoky in this fragrance, really. And there's nothing here that would be similar to like a birch note with some like leathery kind of nuances in the wood. It's not even that woody of a candle. It's about as woody of a candle as like citrus and spruce is, which is to say not. This is more green, it is more fruity, and then it's got that very mentholated kind of note. Not a whole lot of wood, definitely no smoky wood, definitely no leather-like wood. So I don't know, folks. I mean, I bought this at Home Goods. This could be a mispour. It makes it very difficult. It makes it very difficult to do these reviews. And I know it would be better to just buy it from the Slatkin website, but like these are readily available in the wild. You can smell them and they're a good price point and they look gorgeous. So I don't know what to say. I'm gonna rely upon all of you Homeworx people out there. Does Balsam White Birch smell like this? Like not like Balsam White Birch? Not like the notes indicate? It smells like the Treetops Glisten, but Treetops Glisten was better and bolder. Strength and throw on this was not great. It wasn't like horrendous either, but again, it was a 3-wick admittedly, but as we've seen with many of Harry Slatkin's 3-wicks, some of them outperform the 4-wicks. Actually, several of them do. So it has much more to do with, is this a good fragrance that is executed well? And at that point, 3 or 4 wicks is almost, it seems to me to not make that much of a difference. It's formulated well and it's a good fragrance profile, it's executed correctly. Like you should be able to get really good performance out of a 3-wick. You should, and many of his do perform quite well in 3-wick version. And then there's a whole range of them that perform badly no matter how many wicks there are, if you know what I mean. So this one wasn't great, but it wasn't like any worse than like these 4 wicks. You know, I mean, in the back bedroom, it was again, probably like a 5, you know. I didn't love the mentholated note, and I think it has amber in it too. So it kind of came across a little bit cool and masculine, even though it had the like fruity warm dimension too. I don't know, it just wasn't executed right for me. I didn't love it. I just didn't love it. I loved Treetops Glisten. I thought that was the right version. And it was formulated and executed correctly. It was balanced. Every little element was correct to each other. This one is a little bit too cool with the menthol and it's kind of masculine, musky. It's like all of the things, but also in half measure. Why are these candles done? I just don't know. Caveats though, because this may not actually be Balsam White Birch. It just may not. So definitely let me know down below if you know that this is a mispour. And if you know what fragrance this actually is, definitely let me know that as well. So I'm pretty sure though that I did burn a version of Citrus and Spruce here, and I'm panning that because that is an poor excuse of a candle. I did like Palo Santo and Spruce, but I think it needs to be better. It just needs to be better, and it definitely needs to be stronger for me to consider buying it again. Although I probably would, because I'll probably give it another couple tries because I like the fragrance profile and just hope that it does better, but it probably won't. So there you go. There's 3 quite mediocre Homeworx candles. Best of the bunch was Palo Santo and Spruce, which is the most recent one. That's what I've got for you, my friends. I have 2 other Homeworx candles coming up, also mediocre. And then I have some Bath and Body Works candles, and at least 2 of which I've been burning and I've been very impressed with, at least for the strength, throw, and performance. And it feels really good to say that, even of Bath and Body Works at this stage in the game, if you know what I mean. So look for those shortly. And I need to clear out some of these candles so that I can present them to you for empties, because yes, we are almost at the end of January, which is crazy. So, and I do have like a pretty good tub of January empties actually. So that video will be good. And a lot of little things that I've been burning that I've either reviewed in the past or were too small to review or whatever. So yeah, definitely stay tuned for that. And catch me in the next one for some other reviews. So good to see you, my friends. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.